was fun to discuss it. It was fun to bring up. In 1 hour, you can't really bring up all the points that we had discussed previously, but it
Yeah.
was fun to try and
The
bring.
time went by so fast.
Time really
I mean, it
flies.
was really, really fast. I wasn't even sure how that happened. So when
Yeah,
you said we were like 46 minutes in, I was like,
I
wait,
was
hold
like
up.
10. Yeah.
the time does fly, and when you're enjoying the conversation, yeah, I guess it really does fly. Because you're just when you're doing what you enjoy, you don't know how long it's been.
That session could have gone on for another 2 hours. I think Sonny was very ready to dissect the entire UME jam wife relationship and how those influences don't trust each other.
Yeah,
Trust.
Yeah, that was an interesting angle. How they don't trust each other. That was such an interesting angle. And to be honest, I've never thought of it that way. I've never, thought of the fact that you need to take all of these exams because simply the simple fact is they don't trust each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe
And also,
that's where we should.
it's also a source of revenue for them, making money off, the fees and these exams and stuff like that. And also stealing money and also getting bribe.
yep. That's the
So,
simple thing.
Sonny, since this is a recap of what we discussed earlier,
Yeah,
maybe you want to give us, first of all, those courses or careers that you think may shape Nigeria, in the nearest future that maybe we can start investing in as a country.
Was that to Tonya or to myself?
Oh, sorry, Sunny. I meant to say Sunny.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. I think all STEM fields, anything that has to do with engineering, especially like IT engineering. We're talking about the software engineers, the artificial intelligence engineers, and I think it's actually mission critical when you talk about like AI related stuff because the world is going to be moving towards it. Is AI is no longer a future thing. It's here. I have an AI degree. It's here. It's been here for a while. We just don't know. It's going to creep out. And the thing is, the way AI works is with data sets, right? So if you don't have enough like people that look like us producing our own data, eventually AI will do what AI do. AI would only know what it knows. So you've seen the cases where they would put a rapist that is white, and I'm not get race baiting here, and then a 13-year-old black woman, and then the AI would say that she's more likely to commit a crime. And that's not the AI being racist. The AI is just working on data sets, data set eventually, before we get to like overly smart AI. So definitely everyone will be really replaced with AI. That's just I will be replaced with AI. Even I, as an AI engineer, will be. So the AI, it's already happening. In fact, I'm building a platform now whose job is to create applications, So that's happening. So definitely that nursing and healthcare, you got it. Those are for the future. The older people get, the more we advance in technology, the older people live, the healthier they live. That means we need more carers, and that's why there's a big push in getting more men into nursing because I don't think it's ever going to work. You're still not going to get that 50-50. I don't think it's ever going to work. I stand by that. But you're saying that more men should get into nursing because it's well paid and everything, and it's a very female dominated industry. Like, hey guys, this is also a thing. Like, you can do it because you're going to need more nurses, no more physicians generally. So investment has to go into that angle. Definitely, you want to invest in things like the arts and the Nollywood things. Like, how many Nigerian actors do you know went to acting school or film school? It's just they were the funny people in their high school. You go and act. Nigeria, this boy can talk. You can be a lawyer. Is that arcade mindset of yes, she's a dramatic queen, she should go and do it, or he's a dramatic prince, that kind of thing. How many people actually learned the art of acting and filming? Yeah. And now you see people producing better movies. Aditi is doing an amazing job with Anako films. A lot of people like that. So you're not seeing people that now they get into these industries, that people that actually studied or have track record in this thing. So these are some of the things that STEM for sure is at the forefront because that's for sure.
What do you think about agriculture?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Nigeria, we don't farm, we don't have agriculture. We are still doing hoe and ham and sickle. We're not farming there. And I say this as someone that runs an agricultural technology,
Distance farming.
right? And when I talk to people about what my company, what I've been investing in, is a struggle. That's one of the reasons why I never even try to raise funds and I self-funded, because they still don't understand, like, why are you doing this? Why? It's like, that's just where we are. So, and again, but it still comes down to tech. It comes down to, like, what we're doing now is still tech. It's data-based. It's also, we're still sooner in the next maybe few years where we get to where get to, we will still be hiring mechanical and like real, like, full-on engineers to build stuff, that's gonna work. So you have to modernize food. Food is probably the biggest thing. I think we have a food shortage, and the world population is probably going to balance at around 12 billion. Those people are going to eat.
Yeah.
They're going to need to eat, and we have to be creative.
So we've got there's a huge demand for food, worldwide, and we have food in Nigeria. We know what we eat in the West. Probably the food in America is pretty much kind of even worse than what we have here in Europe. I think you've touched on what the world needs, which is AI going into the future. But if you think about just Nigeria specifically and what Nigeria will need going into the next, because I think we're so far behind from an AI perspective, just Nigeria. Although we will still need that, and we will still have to try and catch up with the rest of the world. If you think about things like our almost immediate need in the midterm, when we run out of oil and gas specifically, because that's where most of our money is coming in, apart from money sent from diaspora back into Nigeria, which is one of the highest income streams to the Nigerian economy. Everything else is coming from the oil that we sell to America, or the oil that we sell to, I think America is we're the fifth biggest exporter to America. So apart from that, where else are we getting our money that is circulating within the country? We're not producing much of anything else. What do we need to produce? What do we need to use? If you look at India and what they're doing with their population, the amount of people they have, putting all those people in IT and getting money from external countries back into their system. China, manufacturing, all those people in manufacturing, assembling all of those products, getting money from Apple and all of those companies in Silicon Valley, and Amazon, and most of their warehouses are in far places like India and China. What is Nigeria doing to sort of get people into sort of roles and positions that can help us enhance our skills, but also bring more money to the economy? What do we need to start thinking of?
I think of a few things, because there's actually a fellowship right now, and I can't really reveal much, but me and a couple of people are working with the Office of the Vice President, and one of the things we're doing is literally on this. It's a leadership thing where we're trying to come up with plans. And the VP has, we've had a meeting with him twice now. I think he's really loved it. We're basically getting people from A to B. And the one thing, definitely engineering is at the forefront, and you can see things like Andela. The reason why things like Andela are starting to work, and it's still yet to be proven that they will work eventually. They've raised a lot of money, and trust me, my friends work there. The people that started, I know them, but the long-term viability is still very, very shaky. Again, because of the functionality, like the fact that there's so much infrastructure that is not there. So I think engineering is still on the forefront, because while India and China are doing that, people are moving away from that, because the Chinese and the Indians are getting richer. Now you can't go there and be saying you need people. But the Africans, we have a lot of things. Time zone favors us. The latency of writing from America to India is, in fact, India has a bad rep in the ID industry, that there's a bad, you will call it racist, but there's a bad, like, you can't really trust the Indian developers. They have a bad rep. You go to America, it's a known thing. China culture, it's language barrier, which is what Africa has a very good thing. Definitely. I think also one area we don't talk about is leadership and policy.
Mm-hmm.
Policy is one area that you need to train people, because it's one thing you can actually export as well, right? You can export people to the UN.
Yeah.
You know, my uncle is working as a thingy in Gambia now, one of their judges, and
Yeah.
he was chief judge in Nigeria. Leadership and policy making is needed. That's
Yeah.
one area. I think another area that I guess this one is vague, but is infrastructure. The biggest investment Nigeria can make now is in infrastructure, and that means anything from roads to transport to whatever, and whatever skill is required there.
Yeah.
Training people for that, because that's the best investment you can make, and the long-term viability for that is just is amazing. So these are, I think, our most immediate educational needs right here, right now in this.
So there goes the contradiction around we need so you said we need leadership and good leadership, which is something we can export. I think the UK does that very well. They export something called soft power. They send ambassadors and, you know, the likes of Tony Blair and co, who are now leading the Tony Blair Foundations and like everything else. And they're, you know, teaching people in different countries or developing in the developing world how to lead their countries, how to lead organizations, how to lead institutions, kind of things and to think, how to think strategically. So that's one. It's clear that our educational system probably does not produce the best amount of leaders or well-rounded leaders. So that's probably a lack in there. But the contradiction then comes where we say we need more infrastructure, and infrastructure is really important. We need to start putting people in place to build more infrastructure. But we already have a high amount of engineers. We already have we already have a high amount of people who have gone to study, you know, things that are related to infrastructure, you know, construction, management, quantity surveying, all of these things related to infrastructure. We kind of already have a high amount. So why do we still lack infrastructure if we're churning out all of these people from universities every day?
So yeah, they're not prepared. China, CCECC will still go and bring their Chinese people from China.
There you go.
Because that Chinese person that had basic education is even more prepared than your average graduate. Like it's really, really sad. I sound very privileged for saying this, and I will never shy away from the privilege I've had in my own life. It is what it is, you know, it's a game of numbers. But it's just unfortunate. I'm telling you, Tonya, if you take in my industry alone, even like Brunel that I went to, the average computer science graduate is even not prepared. And I wrote a blog post about that, cursing, like, we need to change that system. So now imagine the person in Nigeria where, like, the conversation hasn't even started. Man, no, like, they're not.
There are a couple of things, which is one of the reasons why we wanted to untangle this. There are so many layers to this thing. There is the aspect of people doing what they are not supposed to do because they feel like that's where the money is. And what's the role of, I think, which is one of the things that Tonya was trying to bring up during the actual Instagram live conversation. What's the role of knowing what we know now? Yes, I understand that some careers are more profitable. Some careers are like, you know, it's like a safety net or like a survival thing. We understand that. But in light of things like this pandemic that we are going through, in light of where Nigeria is now, what are the different stakeholders doing to ensure that this isn't the case? There are so many layers to this. There is a layer, if we want to start from the very top, there is a layer of the politics that is involved with, you know, employing people locally. There is the racism and the tribalism thing. I'm even talking, let me even give you a rough example. I'm in the wellness industry. I teach yoga. And I like to think of myself as a pretty damn good teacher. But because I'm Black, some people would rather listen to a white person teaching. So there is even that already. It doesn't mean I went to a white person taught me my yoga. I went to a teacher training and it was a white person that taught me all that I know. When I started yoga, it was a white person that taught me. But that's not to say that a Black person couldn't have taught me. But I have all of the qualification. I can teach yoga pretty well. probably more than a white person or my white counterpart, but I would never get, or some people would never listen to me because of that. So there is that barrier. So when we're talking about, contracts and, the civil engineering bits, there are people that, there will be a good number of people that are good enough, that don't fit that mold of, okay, we are turning out all of this rubbish, empty graduates, like someone said on the comments. So there is that. So there are different layers to this. There is also like the governmental policies in place. There is also like the mental and mindset of our people, whether they are our parents or whether they are our teachers, whether they are our lecturers. Of course, there are the bad crops, but there are different layers to this. So I just feel like on the surface level, I get you. I understand what you're saying. I understand that, yes, there are a shit ton of empty graduates, but what role is the government playing to ensure that we are not turning out empty graduates? What role is the graduate himself playing to make sure that I'm not coming out here empty or I'm not coming out here useless? What role are the lecturers playing to ensure that, the people that are leaving this university, they will be able to stand, shoulder to shoulder with someone that maybe went to school in India? What role are the parents playing, knowing what we know now, and also thinking in terms of the future, futuristically, also thinking about knowing that if you say my child should be an engineer or my child should be a medical doctor, and then you know that your child doesn't have the capacity, your child will just come out and just be basically a number, one of the statistics to, all of these many engineers that we have that are empty. So what role are all of these different people playing, and how do we come together at the end of the day and marry? Because it just feels like we are all running around circles. We are all, everybody's just trying to survival of the fittest. I get that it's a human thing, but if at some point we don't collectively, raise our voices, collectively say, okay, you know what, enough is enough. Collectively say, what's the point of NYSC? Collectively say, this university cutoff mark, why are we taking all these multiple exams? I know that this is very far-fetched. It almost seems impossible, but it's something that we shouldn't be afraid to talk about, or we shouldn't be afraid to say, there is a possibility here for us to, there is this option. In as much as it's so far-fetched, there is still this option. There is still us saying, you know what, let's look at other fields, let's look at other courses, and besides, not everybody's supposed to go to school.
Yes, I agree.
Not everybody's supposed to go to the university and go through the actual system. We understand that, but what are we doing as a people to say, okay, for the people that want to go to technical school, this is what you can do, this is what you're going to do, this is how we are going to, this is the industry that we are going to build for you and your role in this industry. For the people that want to do certain things, and you will hear stuff like Andela and all of that, these are actually individuals that, add that mindset, add that thinking to say, I'm going to change something. I'm not going to be part of this system. Okay, I understand this well enough to say, let me go and build something. Let me go and get people like yourself. I don't know if you get what I mean. I think I'm rambling at this point.
No.
Love it.
You're making very good points.
So I think you touched on so many good things there. You touched on the unprepared graduates that we're producing and what is causing us to produce unprepared graduates. You also touched on, and that obviously then turns into so many layers, policies, guardians and counselors, teachers, all of those people who are part of the system that produces these unprepared graduates. Mm-hmm. And we want to be able to discuss that. But you touched about one really beautiful thing about not everybody is supposed to go to school. And I saw a few people nodding, saying they agree. And I think I agree with that as well. Here comes the COVID-19 question that James has been asking for a while. It's shown us that COVID-19 has shown us that there are other skills and other people that are really needed in our society and for our society to function. In the UK here, people are Tesco selling, groceries every day, and if without those people, most of us will be starving. You've got the plumbers who, and electricians who are on call, ready to come and fix things in your house when they break. Most of those skills don't require you to go to school. They require you to be an apprentice. There's an apprenticeship system in most of the developed countries where you just learn how to do these things, and then you run your own business by doing them.
And get certified for it.
And get sorry what?
And get certified for it.
And yes, of course, and get certified, get accreditation from the right institutions,
yes,
proving that you're a competent workman for all of these things, and these things serve a wonderful purpose. So it's juxtaposing these things with university and saying, do we all need to go to university? Why are we all trying to go to university? And is this having a worse, detrimental effect on the society because we're all trying to go to university?
Yeah, this is just been beautiful, because something that Mike said is if you think about it, like, I guess when I think about it, is I don't really know what the government is doing. I know I can only talk about what I think or I believe they should be doing, in the sense that, first of all, I think that it starts with everything begins with planning. You have to plan for success. So which means you have to look at your curriculum, your current plan, and say, okay, this doesn't work, or this is not fit for purpose. What do we need for it to be fit for purpose? Right?
Yeah.
Not go to London and copy their own. What do we need for it to
work for our own?
For it to work for you, and me. And it's incremental. That I think the conversation starts from that, saying, what would a working framework look like for students to produce and it was going to differ from different levels, for different people, different languages, and all of that. It's going to differ. I think it starts from there. Once you do that, and then you then create that framework. Because the problem with Nigeria, one of the reasons why it's easy to rig the Nigerian system is there's this obsession with centralization of everything. There's this obsession. JAM is the core. This is the core. It doesn't really work like that.
The perfect example of that is, if you want to get anything to work or to happen in Nigeria, you have to go to Abuja. Yeah. When I was in secondary school, they made a mistake on my common entrance. This was, from primary school to secondary school, the jump. They made a mistake on my common entrance, and my parents couldn't solve it from Port Harcourt. My parents had to fly to Abuja to go and solve that. So all of the institutions that solve and strengthen the nation or that work for us are all in the center of the country. So like you said, there is no decentralization of those institutions.
And it comes down to what's it called, Sangzu, Art of War, right? It's like, if you're one general and you want to control everything, the reason why you're doing it is because you know that your intentions are not. If you cannot look at a general and say, go and fight this war here, like this is why Middle Eastern countries are terrible at war. Countries like Saudi and everything, because a country like Saudi spends more on defense, right? They are the, I think, third largest spender in defense after US, Russia, and then I think it's Saudi Arabia before China, or there's China or Saudi after Saudi Arabia. A country like that, they've never been at war, but they spend more on defense. Why is it like they've lost every single war? Even in Yemen, they messed up because the Saudis, the way they operate is this: if I'm a general and I see an opportunity, I have to call this guy who has to call this guy, because the reason why the central power has not given me, because they don't trust me. They know they're up to no good. While you look at a country like Israel, you think of whatever you want to think of, they're really great at wars. Doesn't matter whether the wars are justified or not. That's by the case. They're great at wars because it's very central. When I've been to Israel 3 straight times, and I've gotten to learn from the Israelis, because I see a lot of similar in terms of these people. At one point, they had zero. They had to start all over again. What did they do? The first thing they did is they had to revive a language, which was Hebrew. They revived a dead language. People think Hebrew has been spoken. No, Hebrew was dead. Hebrew was already revived 100 years ago. They revived it. So they understood the value of instruction in a way that people, they live it. We don't do that in Nigeria. Chinese will come and sell you instruments. They will live in Chinese, and then you still have to go back to them. We don't do that. ATM does not have Hausa, Yoruba, or Igbo. It doesn't happen. That part. And you go to Rwanda, where you see it's English kid Rwanda, everything, right? There's that part. So you see that. And then also one thing they do is collective, what's it called? There is a common idea of what it means to be Jewish. A lot of people don't know this, but you have to actually serve in the army. The only people that are exempt are Orthodox Jews, and I think they're trying to make it compulsory, and the Druze. And guess what they did? The Druze are those desert Bedouins. Do you know how they serve in the army? They made them trackers, because this is what they do. They're in the desert every day. So what they do? Okay, we'll train these guys especially for tracking. What they do now is all the illegal crossers. So you're keeping them in their element, all right? That's what they're doing now. So they looked at their case, and there's a common goal of what it means to be Jewish and everything. There's a common, like, they go to the army, and when they come out disciplined. They come out with skills that they can really transfer. They're not going there to suffer. They're not going there to collect 20 Alawi. They're there as human beings. They get benefits. They are there. They don't actually pay them, funny enough. They just get the benefits, everything, like travel is free and all of that. So these are the things I think we need to look at. We need to look at all these countries that started from zero. What did they do?
Mm-hmm.
Try to see how we can adopt certain things in our own context to do that. And I think this is what the conversation that's not happening. We're constantly just looking at America. We want that. Again, outcome, we want that. And yeah.
You've said something that is really, really that really resonates. You've said a lot actually, but there is one point that you said that really resonates, because it's one of the things that we wanted to talk about, or one of the topics that we when we started Untangled, is one of the first topics that we try to untangle what it means to be Nigerian. Do we have that one goal, that one thing to say, okay, this is the vision, this is this country's vision, this is where we are headed? Do we have that one thing? Like everything, even the most backyard companies, they have their mission and vision statements. Do we have that one thing that says, okay, this is what it means to be Nigerian, and this is where we are going? And everybody, it's almost like the American dream. We talk about Nigerians even know more about the American dream. Nigerians know more about slavery than the Nigerian history. Nigerians know more about America than Nigeria.
Yep.
I'm not even going to talk about Britain, because they are our masters. They are still our masters. I'm not going to use where they are still our masters. I'm not even going to talk about, because you can justify that. But how do you justify us knowing American model? How do you justify someone going to America, for 3 weeks, and then they come back with an American accent and they don't know their language? There are so many things, because we've lost our identity as a people. We don't know what our vision is. We don't know what the unifying thing is for our country. So I think that was one of the very first things that we talked about, and I don't know why we've not explored that topic since then, because we said that we were going to go back.
We will. We'll get to it.
Definitely will. I mean, that's a very strong topic, and I feel like, if we unpack it, we're going to have a lot of points that would. I think it's going to be one of those 2-part or 3-part series, which we are going to definitely hop into, because I think that sometimes the fact that we're so diverse is one of our biggest problems in Nigeria, because we have so many disjointed views of what it means to be Nigerian. To an extent, we always go to some other country and start to attach to what their own vision is and try to apply that to our lives. But to be honest, you can never ever forget where you're coming from. Yep. It can never leave you. That's what your heritage is. That's what your origin. So I think that vision of what Nigeria stands for as in totality plays a huge role in a lot of things, like, for example, the educational system as well. And like Sonny rightly said, you have to, first of all, have a plan to be able to know, okay, first of all, now this is where we're at. this is what we have right now, right? We started with this mission about education in Nigeria, and then that's why
Yeah.
almost everybody who is enlightened enough to know that education is important sends their kids to school to go and study, whatever it is that they need to study. So if we have that understanding that this is something that is needed, where did that disconnect come from? I don't know if anybody here is a historian or has that history, because when I speak to people who are much older, they tell you how the educational system was when they were growing up. Our parents would tell you in 1955, on such and such date, this is what happened. In 1925, they give you a breakdown of how their education, who their lecturers were, what they enjoyed about each of their courses. I
Yeah.
can barely remember my first, second, or third year in school, really. And, for good reason. So where did that disconnect come from? And, what can we start doing to correct that disconnect? Like, for example, with our lecturers, do we even train them? I mean, do they go for training and development? It's not just about, them going to school. I mean, them not being able to train themselves. In every organization, we adopt training, we train, we develop, we retrain people,
You maintain.
And there's also the idea of, if you eventually want to train some of these people and you say, okay, you know what, go abroad and go and study a little more about AI so that you can bring that knowledge back to Nigeria. Is there a possibility that that person will escape from there?
SKP.
Because
Yeah.
yes, is there a possibility that that person will escape from there? So it's not just the government, it's not just our parents, it's also us as the people, as individuals, about what our own standards are, what our own ethics are, and where it should be really
Yeah.
governed on
So
a global scale. So, but I feel like we touch a lot of points. I think that my Michael is trying to say something, but I
No.
know that I know we
so
talked about a lot of points for in regards to
so
education. But Sonny, do you have any last words about the educational system in Nigeria, and especially for people who decide not to go to school? Actually, I really want to touch on that, because I mean, I live in America. If you don't go to school, it's not I mean, high school is like, oh my God, you went to high school, you graduated. They celebrate your high school graduation like you've struck gold or something. But in Nigeria, and after that, you can get a job. You can rise, up. You can become a manager depending on your experience. But
yeah.
most of the job opportunities you have in Nigeria, first of all, you have to have a bachelor's degree. Some will even take a polytechnic, first of all. Second of all, you have to be of a certain age. That's a different conversation, I'm very sure. Ageism in Nigeria. You have to be of a certain age before you can get a job. So that means if you went to school too late, then you have a problem. So, you know, any last words, especially for people who decide not to go to school? How can they maneuver this whole getting more education in Nigeria without actually going to the four walls of a university? And what can parents also do to encourage, such people and channel direct them in the right course of action?
I think it's very sound for you as a Nigerian graduate today to ask yourself the question: do I actually need university? Of course, if you're doing something like medicine or any of that, there's no two ways about that. Now, the reason why I asked that is it's a risk reward thing. It's the same reason why I didn't do a master's and I had to look at my dad because I'm saying I'm not doing a master's, I'm not doing a PhD. Even when I had scholarship offer for a PhD, I resisted it, and because I started doing the math in my head, like, okay, how much am I going to pay for this master's? How much is it going to fetch me? What am I
Mm-hmm.
going to learn? This was my thought process. Okay, I'm going to pay another 20, at least 30,000 pounds to accommodation,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And this master's is probably going to fetch me maybe an extra 5,000 pounds a year, right? So let me just kukuma, the math just doesn't make sense, right? Yes, I'll have an MSc, but that has a title. And one of those people, I don't like titles. So I was like, okay, no, it doesn't make sense for me to. If you give me that 30K, I'll use something. I'll do something better with it. This is the same thing. This guy talks about his story. The guy that founded Bitcoins Africa. It's Timmy. Never met the guy, by the way. And not always agree with some of his tweets, but again, social media is a funny place. You can't judge people that way. But he was a Unilag guy, and he dropped out. He's what 20. This guy's what 25, 26 now.
Mm-hmm.
He's running the largest Bitcoin exchange in all of Africa.
Mm.
Right? He said he posted one day the text he sent his dad when he said he was dropping out. And it's like, I believe you, my son, that kind of thing. Now there are some people that there are parents that you send that text, it's go and pluck your own kid, they'll tell you. It's go and pluck your own kid, they'll point the bush, go and bring your own kid. So again, I think it comes down to the individual. Like, you have to ask yourself, the same way I asked myself, do I actually need this master's? I knew, for example, when I was in my degree, that I didn't actually need the degree. I finished my degree because, first of all, Nigeria, my dad and everything, but I was getting other things, collaboration, people, networking, talking to people. That was the biggest takeaway. And other things that maybe I didn't really know that I learned in terms of, Brunel was giving me access to the UK system. That was the biggest takeaway for me, all right? So you have to ask yourself, really, what is it you want? And is university going to get me there? And not just university, what I'm going to learn. I don't think the average Nigerian graduate asks himself, what am I going to learn over the course of 4 years? Am I going to enjoy that? And if I don't enjoy doing it, let's say I go and slave for 4 years. After that 4 years, will it be worth it?
Does it spark joy? Let's bring in Marie Kondo in.
Yeah, so you have to ask that. And I think, that's on a case-by-case basis.
I remember last week I told my mom, because I showed her one of the Instagram live videos, and then she's like, "Oh, this thing looks interesting." She's like, "Oh," I said, "Oh, look at that guy I'm interviewing. The guy is very intelligent." She's like, "Oh, you're intelligent too. Sometimes you even surprise me, sir." I'm like,
Not fired.
Shots fired. Multiple shots fired.
But where I'm coming to with that is that, so she's like, "Oh, you look so good at doing this. I think you're a natural. Have you interviewed anybody before?" I said no, and then I said, "Look, after doing this, I was thinking maybe I can actually become an MC." She looked at me. And she said, "Please finish your nursing degree first before you start thinking about nursing. And then you can be doing MC on the side as a side business." So it is still, their generational standard. You go to school, you come out, you have a job. So something like me saying I wanted to become an MC is like, are you mad?
Yeah,
but
carry on. So if I have a son that says, I want to become a YouTube streamer, I'm guessing if I had a child today and I'll probably be terrified, like, "Hey, I beg, go and code now. It's not your mates that coding. So, Daddy, I want to be a YouTube gamer." Hey, my God,
I want to be an Instagram influencer.
Teenage I want to be a blogger.
But why do you have that? Why is that your first instinct? Because there are also parents that their kids say, "I want to be a footballer," and the father takes them to football training every day non-stop and supports them through football training every day non-stop. We know that that's not, in most cases, doesn't happen in Nigeria. Sani, you talked about me scoring 2 goals against your team the other day. I wanted to be a footballer when I was a kid. My parents passively supported me, is what I would say. I don't think they gave me, every time they came to find me, they found me on the football pitch when I was at school. Anytime they came to come and visit me at boarding school, they always made comments. But I don't think they ever discouraged me from doing it. But I know that if I had been able to drop everything else and completely focus on that, it is where my joy was. It is where I wanted to go, and where I found passion and where I had passion. So if somebody says, "I want to be a YouTube streamer," you would have parents who says, "Okay, I'll buy you a laptop. Okay, I'll buy you a mic. Okay, how is YouTube today? How many followers do you have? Let's talk about your technique. Let's talk about, how, we would completely devote all of our time to that person doing that thing. Someone says, at 5 years old, I love yoga. I want to be a yogi. You know, you'd buy them a mat. You'd say, okay, show me what you devote exactly all your time to them doing that. It doesn't mean, you stop them from getting the basic education that they need, to be able to live a decent life. Everyone needs to understand maths, arithmetics, and all the basic. But if this person gets to the age of 18 and still has so much passion and love and joy from doing that thing that is not our, what we think as normal, as going to a university to go and study, why should we stop them? Why shouldn't we let them freely go ahead?
It's an interesting point, Tony, because you've literally brought up 1,000 memories, and I was the first one, like just like you, sports was what I was gonna do. Like I've always been a sportsman. I always will be. Sports was what I was gonna do. I played football for my school. I played table tennis. I played badminton. I did athletics. I did middle distance. In fact, if it was up to me, I think middle distance. Yeah, one of my guy names was Kenya Man. Back then,
he run for North.
Exactly. I could run because I had the body, the slender, everything. I played all these. The basketball was the only game, but I remember specifically my grandfather saying in Hausa, Sani, kwallo hatsari ne. He was basically telling me that football is dangerous, so that they will break your leg, or basically telling me no. And I'm pretty sure that did something in my psyche that I never saw myself as I will make it as a footballer or something like that. Despite the fact that in my school, I was my school striker. I went to university, I played. And not only that, I was a leader as well. Like I held the captain armband because I could talk to the lads and they would listen, things like that. But same thing, table tennis, I wanted to play that badminton, but every time I would take Nigerian newspaper, I never ever saw one table tennis football player that, because that was probably the sport I was best at, table tennis and badminton.
No influence.
This one, they're not going to make money. So it brings me to my point in terms of I have a half brother that he's been with his phone, he's been shooting videos and everything like that. And that's when I did the GoFundMe and we bought him a laptop recently. And I could have bought the laptop, but we did the GoFundMe and people donated. We bought him. And this guy's been improving. What did I do? I just contacted my friends at Adobe. I was like, can they give us a 1-year free subscription for Adobe? And they did. So now he has Adobe. That's all I did. And at the end of this guy is now creating bits and bobs here, that kind of thing. I'm not necessarily saying that's what he has to do. Pass your exams, but I'm equipping him with the things.
Tools.
Yeah, with the tools, because he could be out there joining a gang. I'd rather him do, So, and I think this is what Nigerian parents don't do. You do, and I guess it's a case of, in the end, passion does not pay the bills. That's just the fact, right? Not always, at least for everybody, because life is a balance between suffering and pragmatism, So if my son is 5'2" and they say he wants to play NBA, I'll have to sit down and tell him, yes, so I will take you to, but this NBA, hey, 5'2", okay, you exactly, we have to now bring, so there's an element of that, but I do think you're right. The correct strategy would be, okay, yes, you like this thing, hey, still pass your school, your exam and everything, but I'll do this. I would, give and take.
Will encourage you. Yeah,
encourage them a little bit. Okay, you can go and be playing football, but make sure you've done your homework. You have done this. You have that kind of thing. So there's give and take there. Yeah.
And I love that you said that, because I know that when I speak to a lot of parents, parenting is definitely hard. So these are some of those tough decisions that that when you make for that child, you feel like you are actually, you may be influencing the child's future in a good way and a bad way. Because if a child says, I want to become a YouTube star, and that's just one of those fads that the child may have for 2 years and then give it up. So if you encourage your child to go into that 100%, that means you've inevitably helped your child waste their life for 2 years, instead of having that child go to school and then do it on the side when they become very sure that that's exactly what they want to do. So, I definitely feel you on that. It's a good thing to say. And that's why if you see some of this, let me refer to American football. Some people when they get scholarships, when they go into their football academy, they have to keep their grades up. They have to, make sure that they have the schoolwork fully
Yeah.
done, you
Yeah.
know, even though they are professional athletes, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to go into details of whether they actually do that or not, or people just pass them just so that they can keep their athlete status. But that is the intention there. So yeah,
Yeah.
that definitely helps. Thank you so
So
much, Tommy.
Yeah, pleasure's all mine.
That's
Mm-hmm.
I actually thought of it like something when it comes to sports. I know that the last Olympics, Nigeria performed so badly, so poorly. I feel like every year our sportsmanship or our ability to be good sportsmanship just declines. Every year we are taking every season or every 4 years we are taking a dip, a dip.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Is it because
anyway,
most of
just
the top
something to think
talent
about.
are
Maybe
going
we
to
can
other countries?
handle that at some point.
Do you
But
think it's because the
Sonny,
top talent?
Sonny,
Yeah.
you were saying something earlier about being single and over 30 and how you think, so you were saying something about gender roles and how you think women feel it more, or women, it's different between men and women. You're going to shed some light on that, and I was waiting for you.
Absolutely. I mean, just to add to Mike's point, I said it could be very well be because our talents are now going. You know, Bahrain is saying, "Come, become a Muslim, and we'll give you this." Divine Ododuru now, if he has the chance to represent America, you think he's going to be doing an ever better race for us again? No, you know, because I witnessed in Nigeria that we were winning medals. You know, I remember those days.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah,
I know. At
We're
least,
watching
at least I witnessed that too.
yeah.
the Jaliu running. What's the shot put with lady's name? I can't remember her name. The lady
Chioma,
with, no, the shot put. I can't remember her name. She was a gold medalist. She won gold medal. And these are like people that trained in. And now I think the biggest athlete we have is Blessing Okagbari, and she's not necessarily. Divine Ododuro probably is going to pick up in the next few years, and he's like 40 years old. But yes, let's just agree that he's 25 or whatever he says is. But, you know, so it's like, it is what it is. And then to come to your point about like the what's it called, single and 30. Yeah. I definitely agree. Like where I stand is I'm not an equalist. I've had my time trying to explore that particular paradigm. I think men and women are fundamentally different, and we're different, and there are double standards on every side of the fence. There are things that men would do that, and it's not because it's good or bad. I'm just saying, if today if I walk around and say I call a 911 and say my wife is assaulting me, the response would be very different if my wife called and said my husband is assaulting me. And that will always be the case. It's not because we're bad or we're good. They're just things. Things that our psychology and biology plays into. Now, when it comes to dating, I think absolutely. I think women will get more pressure to say, "Oh, you're 30 and you're or above 30 and you're still single." And some of it is sexism and misogyny. But I always say there's no smoke without fire. You always have to remove people's bad intentions, because you have to admit, you have to live a life where you think the bad intentions are the minority, but you then have to understand the logic. Generally, there's a reason why today we have shops like Forever 21, right? But you're never ever going to see sexiest man alive at 21. It doesn't happen. You're not going to see sexiest man alive at 30. Sexiest man is always that 35, mid to late 30s or early 40s, right? And there's a reason for that. It's not because we're crazy. Understand these things. The thing is, biologically, I think women generally mature faster, and and after a specific time, fertility does wane. It's simple. It's measurable. We know that, but that's different for men. So that also plays a role. Biology does play a role in terms of, and I'm not saying it's the only thing. It's a multivariate analysis. So when someone is saying, "Hey, a lady is 30," and they're worried that, "Hey, she hasn't settled," it's because behind the scene, there is that thought that, okay, it's getting late for you
What's
to.
their business? Sorry, I'm
But again,
sorry.
I'm
Sorry.
not saying
What's
No,
their
because because honestly, good intentions or not, really and truly, what's their business? Because
Yeah,
if
I'm
you
not
think
saying
about it,
again. I'm not
when you
concerned about what their business is or anything. But I think even every single guy or lady behind our minds, our archaic human brains know these things. We do. It's simple. Is it? I talk to a lot of, and Antonia, you probably know this, that I speak to a lot of my female friends. If I have, and we have these types of conversation about intergender psychology, something I love. I have books on it. All right.
Mhm.
I love intergender psychology because I think it's fascinating that how men and women relate, because it's key to our existence. And
Yeah.
the thing is, there are certain things, truths that we find difficult to accept, both as men and women, but they're not, as long as we are the same human beings, they're not going to change much. So I think, yes, women will get a little bit more pressure, because as a guy, I can wake up in my 40s or my 50s and say, now I want to settle. I've done all my hoeing around, and I want to settle. But as much as we want to we want to agree that there's an equalist, it's not the same for my sister that is my twin sister. Let's say if I had a twin sister at the same age, it's not the same. Even when you come to statistics about like how we pair bonding, for example, I've been reading this, going deeply into the pair bonding. So the more sexual partners someone has, the less the ability to pair bond. But it's actually very strikingly different for men and women, because with women is crazy, the statistic, and this is like CDC. It's not some right-wing media kind of thing.
What is peer bonding, Tani?
So basically, your ability to pair bond
That's
is
a good question.
to find a partner that you can basically now bond with for a long term, right? So and be in that union, right? Now the ability, and again, I'm just stating the facts. I'm not representing some right wing or me.
Yeah, sure.
Generally, both men and women, the more like sexual experiences you have, right? There is a slight correlation, but the variance is strikingly different. And the explanation is we're so different psychologically, physiologically, where now, and
Yeah.
you see that the number goes up, but I think when the number gets up to like 20, there's a specific number where after that number, the ability of your ability to pair bond as a lady actually even goes higher, because it's almost like you've gotten to that number where it's like, fuck it, I'm out.
Mhm.
Is that fuck it number, like, man, I've already gotten here. So but it's crazy. And as much as we don't like how these things sound, these are statistics. Yes, correlation is not necessarily causation, but you find causation from explaining correlation, from influencing correlation. Now we are never going to know why, but it gives us hints. So these are things that we're different. We're very,
No, so
So
Sonny, I understand our differences in gender, and yeah, we can say, okay, women getting more. It's also, I mean, for societal reasons, for a lot of reasons, for biology, like you said,
social plays a role.
women would also always get, more pressure to say, why you're not married and you're above 30.
The same way man gets pressure for finance and success. If you are a 30-year-old guy and you haven't gotten your pay together,
Yeah.
no lie, really, guys, the way people serve, even in your own group, gone, you will feel insecure, right?
how far are you now?
Yeah,
wait till
how
that
far
point.
you start seeing that your own guys, not because they
Mhm.
hate you, the way they relate to you will be different. Even again, men have their own thing as well, where if you're a fool
Yeah.
at 40 forever kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's
But
because, yeah, carry on.
so I get the psychological and the physiological drivers for these things, and those drivers are important. But as human beings, we have evolved over time, and evolution is key to how we adapt and become sustain ourselves on this planet. I think the question we're probably asking is why is the evolution so backwards, that or not move forward enough, that we still have to keep to this archaic psychological barriers that says women get married at 30 by force,
I
or
have the answer for
men, where is your financial and response, why are you not financially viable at the age of 40 or the age of
that.
30?
It's
Why
very,
is
very simple. It's very simple. It's because
what's the
as much
answer?
as we have advanced, if you go back 70,000 years or 100,000 years when Homo sapiens first appeared,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you do a brain scan of that person and the person you and me today, it is
Mhm.
exactly the same. We might have evolved socially, but biologically we are still the same thing. And there's a term called hypergamy, which is a very controversial term for whatever reason, because people have misused that term, and I don't know if you are aware of that term. But hypergamy is basically partly plays a role into it. So hypergamy is primarily a female sexual strategy. Women are the sexual selectors. Women, our job is to display, and women select. You know, once you started turning 15, once that fine girl come, you wouldn't even know. You could just start to do mumu mumu thing. That's just how it is. Women, we display, women select.
I think that's right. I think most people even switch that up. They don't really know that that's the
Women select. Women are the primary sexual selectors, because women have, if the key term is procreation, is what we're here to do. When women are born, they are already born with what is of value in terms of procreation, with youth.
Mhm.
And that's why, you know, if they try to be between like around like in her 20s, that kind of thing, or like when she's in her prime, you know, like that time, if you're 21 and a girl's 21 and a 25-year-old version of you comes to toaster, man, you have nothing wrong. That guy is just much more valuable than you. So the hypergamy, basically the way hypergamy is, it talks about and I'm coming from a psychological angle here, and I can give the stuff, and I think we talked about this, Tonya, in the past, where there are different sexual strategies. Men's sexual strategy is unlimited access to unlimited, you know, is spread your seed. Spread your seed as much as possible so that your genetics can survive, right?
Mhm.
Is
Mhm.
bang a duck, right? Now, while with women, it is more selective, it's more quality. It is, if I procreate with you, am I going to get a good enough offspring that will survive? Considering I'm going to spend 9 months. So hypergamy dictates that women are always going for the best possible. So if you have 100 men in a room, let's keep it simple, and 100 women in the world, hypergamy dictates that women are never actually looking for their level. They're always going higher. So by pure math, the 20% or 10% of men are what women consider the most desirable. If a woman has a master's, yes, she would like a guy with a master's, but the guy with a PhD sounds that much more attractive because he has something that.
Okay. Let's bring it back to the societal influence. I think there's the biological aspect.
Absolutely.
At the risk of going too detailed and too technical with biological drivers, I think there's also the social pressure that people get. I think what you're saying is the biology forces the people to have that social pressure. I think that's what you're saying. But to a great degree, but that's not everything else. What are the other social pressures, Mike? Jens, what are the other social pressures that, apart from the biological aspect?
Culture, religion, everything. But I still think those social aspects still come. Religion in Islam or every religion, get married, be pure, don't do bad things, don't do all these things. Now, yes, as much as we probably don't obey a lot of them, if you actually dig deep why they are where they are, you see the reasoning. Now you may not agree with it, but the social comes because look, there are people that have lived longer than way long, and they've seen trends, and that's why they put those buffers in place. They put buffers for hypergamy, they put buffers for testosterone levels, where XYZ. While the nights back in the chivalry started as a code between men and men, today we think of it as a code between men and women. It started as a code between men. The knights, these were tough guys. When they started, they would just go and be shooting anybody, killing anybody. Did you touch, Game of Thrones style doesn't just slash this guy. Chivalry started
after the Dark Ages.
Exactly. Chivalry started as a code of, okay, yes, you're a knight and everything, you can kill this guy, but you shouldn't beat a man when he's down. It started as that. So these are but still biology drives it.
But Sani, like you said, you've just made it. Sorry, Mike, go on.
Yeah, I wanted to say that I'm going to draw examples from stuff like every civil movement or every societal change that we've come to experience, or what you've just said. They've been driven by something. They've been driven by, let's say, an awakening in one's consciousness, or a change in pattern. For instance, let's take slavery, for instance. There were all these other factors, external factors, and if you're looking at it from a human point of view, you will always know, like Yems and Toya, we've talked about this before, how I was having a conversation with someone and the person was like, that no matter how you look at it, that there will always be oppression. One group will always oppress the another. It doesn't mean that, based on where we are ethically, that is right, but it's just the human nature. The same thing with monogamy and polygamy that we were talking about the other day. It is what it is, but it doesn't mean that we need to align to it. And we know for a fact that when we start to change our thinking, and when we start to put some other things in place, that pressure, when something is no longer serving humanity, it should be scrapped away.
Yes.
That's what I think about religion, but that's a different conversation. That's a different conversation. When something is no longer, monogamy is not our nature, but we found a way to make it work. So regardless of whether it's biologically so, or regardless of all these other factors, when people are over 30 and they are not married, is the society and the people around them and all of this pressure, is it making their life a lot more miserable? Are we having a lot more, depressed over 30 people? Exactly. So how does that play, and is it serving us? And should we fucking tone it down?
That's for me. I really think that. I mean, those are very good points because, biology aside, in the country where I live in, it is not abnormal to have somebody who is my age who has had at least 2 kids and is probably not married, right? So the biology comes into play first. She has her kids, and then somewhere along the line, she may or may not find love. Now, I'm not, not to directly compare the Nigerian societies to the American society, because in that context of what I just said, we have, the good thing about it, and we have all the numerous ills that comes from making such choices. Yes. But as you know, when you are above 30, Michael made a solid point, and you are constantly getting barraged by people. Look at someone like Don Jazzy now. Don Jazzy is not married. Constantly people are writing his comments, and I'm not sure what his direct friends and family say to this, but is it something that is improving this person? Is it something that is helping this person find a mate? Is it something that is helping this person thrive as a human being who lives in Nigeria? Because when we mix religion plus the biological aspects, that is a recipe for disaster. Because
it can be.
Now, I'm sorry?
No, I said, it can be for sure. I mean, eugenics.
That can be a recipe for disaster, because you have this person where you are saying, please, stick to your religious beliefs and do not hold yourself around, right? But we also want you to be conscious that you need to, have a child before your eggs, become hard and, unpenetratable, So, those two things are right there. And I was talking to Cynthia the other day, and I said, you're in your late 30s, even if you're in your early 40s, if you work in an organization right now and all of a sudden you get knocked up, you would wear a fake ring to kind of pretend that you are married to the guy who knocked you up, just so that you don't get, so that somebody does not frown at you, like, okay, this girl has bowled herself in her 40s. And then we also know that there are a lot of people, and I'm going to come back to the gender now, because I like that you said something about men and women, even though I think for a lot of men as well, the older you get, the slower your sperm swim. Biologically, that's what it is.
Yeah. So not until you're like 70, but yeah.
I'm sorry?
Not until you're like 70, assuming you are not like a chain smoker and everything, but it's the truth. The older you get, your testosterone levels you reduce, your sperm count reduces. Sorry to cut you there. It is true.
I'm not even talking about the count. I'm talking about the speed at which they rush and attach to the egg.
Yeah. That's fun. At some
point. So if they, because when you're young and vibrant, if your sperm hits the egg really, really fast, it's more likely to penetrate. than something that is slower. So I'm now sticking to the female side of things now. So if you combine so a girl who is in her early 40s who has to pretend to technically kind of be in a relationship just so that she can justify the fact that she has a child out of wedlock. Look at what they did to Linda Ikeji, right? It's like, okay, yes, she must have trapped the guy, blah, 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 blah. Whatever the context of their relationship was, they still frowned at the fact that this lady is 39, 40, 42, 41, and she is, she's pregnant, she's having a child soon. My point of this is it serving us, just like Michael said, is it serving us? For you to find a mate, you don't need that. I don't think you need that constant reminder that you're alone. I don't think you need that constant false prayer, that false, no, not false prayer, false concern hidden under, your own will come, oh no, I'm just being caring, and even if that person is being caring and you want to look at the logic behind it, this person thinks, okay, you're getting older, we just want to try and get you to the place where you pop out the kid. Imagine that coming from 20 different people every week. So, then it now appears like, there's something wrong with you, but there usually isn't. So the point when we're having this conversation about talking about something like this was just to shed some light on, because especially people who are married, it's easy for you to lose all this weight and then look at a fat person struggling with weight loss and think, why are you being lazy? It's happened to, I don't know, you guys are very skinny. So maybe you cannot relate. But it happens a lot.
Yeah, it
so
does.
The point is this serving us as a society? What are we creating in people who are within this age range? Are we helping them thrive as human beings to be able to find a mate and then make the best choices? Some people have ended up in relationships they had no business being in, only because of that age, only because of that pressure. Some people are in domestic violence. Some people are married way beneath their level of thinking, and they are stuck with somebody who is just, this girl, you just brought this girl from nowhere just so that because made them notice say the guy get problem.
Yeah.
So that's generally it. I'm sorry, guys. I mean to go soon. But I just wanted to put that point out there. It's part of the reasons why. And one of the points that I would love us to discuss as well is how our married friends, despite their best intentions, really want to marry us off to anybody that breathes, really.
And this is why I want to quickly jump behind what you just said, Yems, because I think it's really pertinent. I think overall, you've got to look at ourselves as human beings and individually. What's the purpose of life for us? And why are we here? What is our purpose here on this earth? Philosophy of life to me is almost simple then, because of thinking about this. It's either you're here for happiness. You want to be happy in everything you do. That's what you're chasing in everything. Money, education, everything is for happiness. Some people find that happiness through learning every day. Some people find that happiness through love. Some people find that happiness through different things. Oprah Winfrey is my big example here. And I think she's still single. But it just goes to show that people can still find happiness. And I don't know for sure if she's 100% happy. But the point, if your point on earth is to be happy, she looks like it.
Account is happy.
She looks like it in
I
many
will make her
respects.
happy. I have happiness to give her left and right.
So if the purpose is to be happy, and people can still find happiness without attaching to somebody, because she's adopted so many kids, you can still find love in different ways. You don't have to have your own kid to be happy. The world is such in a place where you can adopt and you can still find love and you can still share that wonderful love with other people. You can have love in friendships. You can have love in different dynamics of relationships, rather than in a marriage or in a the kind of our norm, our orthodox kind of relationship that we have in our head. So you could, if the point is happiness, it's up to individuals to then dictate what happiness means to them. For me, so for me, happiness could be anything else, But yeah, go on.
I agree with you there in the sense that there's a final point I want to make about that is very important. I do not agree that if somebody's out there just barrage, and I say this as someone that comes from northern Nigeria, me, that by the time I finished my uni already, my own parents were like, oh yeah, alpha. And I had to have a very, I would say, there was a conversation I had with my parents, and I think they're still scarred. And I didn't realize how scarred they were until I had a chat with one of my family members. They realized, it's just small plane now. Like, you people are fearing me like this. Like, I had to have this one, I had to position myself in a certain way. And again, yes, that nobody has a right to be in your business. I would never ever, you would never see me tell people in that. But we can talk about the Oprah Winfrey's and everything. And it's something I was listening to a psychologist talking about, is about how that's the biggest dilemma of women in their 30s that have really, they're successful and everything, is now they want to have a specific, like he says, he says we need to do a better job of telling young men and young women the truth. And he says especially young women, in terms of like it's very important, because he says this is a world-renowned psychologist. Like, the biggest thing, like when he's coaching young women like that, like at 30, 35, they've got into the pinnacle of their career now. But the problem is they want to settle down. But then there is this dilemma of, he says, if you think that you're the one lady that you're not going to want to have a family, you're the one in the 10,000, and you're probably not. There are men that don't want families and everything. They just want to be CEO, Fortune 500. We know those type of guys, and there are women like that. But he said, if you think you're one of those men or women, you're probably not. That's one in the 10,000. There's not a lot of Steve Jobs out there. There's not a lot of Mark Zuckerbergs out there. There are very few. Don't think you're one of them, right? That's just the reality of things. And he says, the biggest thing is the dilemma of now they do want to have that family, and it's a multivariate analysis thing where, but the thing is, the people they consider fit because of hypergamy, again, they consider fit. That pool is smaller. If you're 35, you're probably looking for a guy that's like around the same age or a little bit. Those guys are either already married or now, unfortunately, people don't like it. They're looking at the new batch, because there's a new batch that just graduated from Unilag, and that's where their eyes are, because that's how we work as human beings. We don't like it, but also then you talk about, like, now you see like the age where people can go to a sperm bank and get a baby, but there's still the ethical question. I think it's an ethical question of how does that affect the child, because what we do know is the biggest predictor of, like, if someone wants to fuck you up in this life, the biggest predictor of how you do emotionally, physically, and mentally, is absence of like a father in your life. It is just fact. It's been done. It's across culture. That is one of the biggest. It doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman. The biggest predictor, or one of the biggest predictors of how well you will do, apart from like IQ, is literally the absence of a father in your life. It's crazy. You can read Dr. Warren Farrell's book about how actually empathy is taught to children, not by women, because we always think it's a mother thing, but it's actually by the father. So there's a lot of things like that. You have those questions, and these are things that I don't think we can answer. We can only ponder on, but it is what it is.
Mikey.
No. I think we need to call it today. I have another meeting that I'm actually late for. So, and I believe this was such a good conversation. I really, really enjoyed this. Sunny, you're too brilliant. Yeah, and I feel like you're really, really well read, and you've just been dropping nuggets upon nuggets, and just like catching here.
Mommy, come on here! Oh, your son! I told you.
Yeah.
Smart bookie.
From first down that time.
So yeah, this was super fun, and I think we should do this again if you're open to it, of course. And we're going to explore that topic this next week Sunday.
Yeah, should definitely. I will tune in. I'll tune in.
Yeah.
For sure. And remember the StreamYard thing. Like, whenever you lot are ready, I'm probably going to pay for StreamYard again this month. So like, at least for the first few episodes, you lot can actually use my like, what's it called? Like, I think for what you're doing here, it's so amazing. It's so great. Well, after yes, Instagram is amazing, and then all of that, you should do that 1 hour Instagram. And that's the thing with Instagram is 1 hour, right? So you can do that 1 hour, but then you can have the same conversation again. This conversation we have, imagine now we were streaming it to YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And you didn't have to do nothing. It was just stream and it's there. I think you lot need to. In fact, you have to. I'm holding you lot accountable. You have to.
Yes. Okay.
Accountability. Oh, Yams.
Sorry, guys.
Looking shiggy.
What? Auntie Emmy. You're not supposed to be going out.
Sorry, I'm supposed to be progressing.
I'm supposed to be going out to this your attacking formation.
Auntie Emmy got underground runs.
You want to be somebody's son or daughter. You don't know.
Yeah, so the time we should go and we should go and go ourselves and go and get a man. So
come to London, I beg.
Come to London, man.
Come and do it in London.
I need that top 20%. So if it's in London,
hypergamy, Auntie Ems wants to. You didn't define hypergamy, so I googled it. I think it's when you marry to a superior. Sorry, say that again.
No, you're saying.
I think it's the definition of what I found from a hypergamy is when you marry to a superior caste or a superior class.
They like to always define hypergamy with the one side. Hypergamy is two sides. The crux of the matter is alpha fox, beta box. Yes, you're supposed to always women always tend to look for better, but it's not just that. It's also like when you get into the psychology, you realize that, man, this monogamy is a lie. That about how we do how we're polygamous is different.
What books are you reading right now, or what books would you recommend? All those, mindfuck books. Those books.
Michael is actually, I think Michael is actually just in love with your brain right now because.
So I can recommend books. I read a lot of. I would be very honest with you. Some of my books, a good chunk of my books, are very male centric as well. Because again, I can't really be reading female centric books too much because I'm not a female. I might not be able to relate. So there's a lot of male centric books I can recommend, and one good one is Anything by Rollo Tomasi, the Rational Male series. Rational Male 1, 2, 3. He's writing the fourth one. I like Rollo Tomasi. Rational Male, Rollo Tomasi's
okay.
It's what they call it, the red pill Bible. So in the manosphere, there's something called the manosphere, like men. It's amazing, Rational Male, and it's a very male centric book, and it's written for men by men, but women can read it. Then in terms of like just normal psychology, one you can read is Self-Help Psychology, 12 Rules for Life, Jordan B. Peterson. Amazing book. It doesn't matter what you think of Jordan B. Peterson. Amazing book. Authentic Happiness is a great one, even though now they've dispelled some of the myths in that book. It tells you they measured happiness in that book, and that's one I read. Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, of course. Atomic Habits is an amazing one. I'm just looking at my what's it called? Anything by Yuval Noah Harari. Sapiens.
I actually listened to that book, the audio version of The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. It literally shook my brain. I loved it.
Read Sapiens and anything from Yuval Noah Harari if you really want to understand humanity and why we are where we are. And I see Mike, you were like religion and all of that. You would I don't know if you've read Sapiens, so you'd probably love Sapiens and all the books after
Deus, that. Homo Deus, Sapiens, and
21 lessons.
21 lessons. It's definitely been on Obama's recommendation list yearly.
Yeah. It's a wonderful book.
Great. So
guys, I have to go.
Running to my reading list.
Super.
So I also have to go to.
I have to go and make Eba. Fasting time will soon end, so let me go and make my Eba.
Okay, guys.
Fantastic. Take care, guys.
Let me see.
We'll do it again.